You know that feeling when you wake up and something just feels off. Not wrong exactly, just different. That's how it started for me. It was a Tuesday morning. I remember because Tuesdays were always our quietest days. My husband, Daniel, had already left for work. His coffee cup was still on the counter, half empty, cold. I stood there in our kitchen, barefoot on the tile floor, staring at that cup like it held some kind of answer. We'd been married for 11 years. 11 years. And somewhere in those years, I stopped noticing when he left in the morning. I stopped hearing his footsteps. I stopped feeling the absence when he closed the door behind him. I poured the cold coffee down the sink and rinsed the cup. My hands moved on autopilot. Everything felt like autopilot. Our marriage wasn't bad. That's the thing people don't understand. It wasn't some disaster you see coming from miles away. There were no screaming fights, no broken dishes, no threats. We were just comfortable. Maybe too comfortable. Daniel worked in finance. Long hours, stressful clients. He'd come home tired, and I'd have dinner ready, and we'd sit across from each other at that same kitchen table, talking about surface things. The weather, bills, what needed fixing around the house. When did we stop talking about dreams? I couldn't remember. I worked part-time as a graphic designer from home, freelance. It gave me flexibility, but it also gave me too much time to think. Too much time to notice the silence in our house. That Tuesday, I had a project due, a branding package for a new coffee shop downtown. I sat at my desk, clicked through fonts, adjusted colors, but my mind kept drifting. To Daniel. To us. To the way he'd kissed my forehead that morning, without really looking at me. It was a reflex, a habit. Like everything else. I shook it off, told myself I was overthinking. I do that sometimes. I create problems where there aren't any. At least that's what Daniel used to say. You worry too much, Sarah. Maybe he was right. I worked through lunch, finished the draft, sent it off to the client. It was almost 3 in the afternoon when I realized I hadn't eaten. I made myself a sandwich, ate it standing by the window, looking out at our backyard. We used to have plans for that yard. A garden, maybe a fire pit. Daniel talked about building a deck one summer. The yard was still just grass and a rusted lawn chair. My phone buzzed. A text from my best friend, Jenna. Coffee tomorrow. I need to vent. I smiled. Jenna always needed to vent. I texted back a quick yes. And then I saw it. Daniel's iPad. He'd left it on the side table in the living room. He never forgot his iPad. He used it for everything. Work emails, reading. Sometimes he'd watch sports on it while I watched my shows on the TV. I picked it up thinking I'd text him, let him know he forgot it. But when I unlocked the screen, his messages were open. I didn't mean to look. I swear I didn't. But the name at the top of the thread caught my eye. Emma. I didn't know an Emma. And the preview of the last message made my stomach drop. I can't stop thinking about last night. I stood there holding that iPad and the whole world just stopped. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. My hands started shaking. I told myself it was nothing, a work colleague, a misunderstanding. But I opened the thread, and I read. If you've ever felt your entire reality crack open in a single moment, you know what I'm talking about. I don't know how long I stood there. Minutes, hours, time just disappeared. The messages went back weeks, maybe months. I scrolled up and up and up, and they just kept going. It wasn't explicit. Not at first. It started casual, friendly. A great meeting today. Thanks for the input on the Richards account. Normal stuff. But then it shifted. You always know how to make me laugh. I'm glad we got paired on this project. And then the late night texts. You still awake? Can't sleep, thinking about our conversation earlier. I felt sick. I sat down on the couch, still scrolling, and the messages got more personal, more intimate. She sent him a photo once, not inappropriate, just her smiling at some restaurant. The message said, "Wish you were here." He replied with a heart emoji. A heart. I couldn't breathe. And then there were the recent ones, from this week. Last night was perfect. I hate that we have to be so careful. When can I see you again? I dropped the iPad like it burned me. My whole body was shaking now, my vision blurred. I thought I might throw up. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. Daniel didn't cheat. Daniel was steady, reliable, boring even. That was us. We were boring. Safe. I picked up my phone. My hands were trembling so badly I almost dropped it. I pulled up Daniel's number, stared at it. What was I supposed to S? Hey, I read your messages. Who the hell is Emma? I couldn't do it. Not over the phone. I needed to see his face. I needed him to look at me and explain this. I texted him instead. What time will you be home? 3 dots appeared immediately. He was typing. Probably around 7. Why? I stared at that message. The casual tone, like everything was normal. I didn't reply. I set the phone down and just sat there in the silence of our living room, trying to process what I'd just learned. 11 years. 11 years of marriage. And I didn't even know my husband anymore. The worst part, I kept replaying everything in my head, looking for signs, clues, things I should have noticed. He had been distant lately, but I thought it was work. He always said it was work. He'd been coming home later, but again, work. He'd started going to the gym more. I thought he was just trying to stay healthy. God, I was so stupid. How did I not see this? I felt anger rising in my chest, hot and sharp, but underneath it was something worse. It hurt. Deep, aching hurt. Because it wasn't just about him cheating. It was about everything we'd built together, everything I thought we were. Was any of it real? Did he ever really love me? Or was I just convenient? I spent the rest of the afternoon in a daze. I tried to work, couldn't focus. I tried to clean, couldn't care. I kept checking the clock. 4:30. 5:15. 6:20. Every minute felt like an hour. I didn't know what I was going to say to him. I didn't know if I'd scream or cry or just sit there in silence. All I knew was that when he walked through that door, everything was going to change. At 6:55, I heard his car pull into the driveway. My heart started racing again. I stood up, sat back down, stood up again. The front door opened. Hey, babe, Daniel called out, his voice cheerful, normal. Like he wasn't destroying our entire life. He walked into the living room, loosening his tie, and stopped when he saw me. You okay? He asked. You look pale. I looked at him, really looked at him. The man I'd spent 11 years with, the man I thought I knew. And I said the only thing I could. "Who's Emma?" The color drained from his face. For a second, he just stood there, frozen, his hand still on his tie, his mouth slightly open. And I knew. God, I knew. "What?" he finally said, but his voice was weak, shaky. I stood up, my legs somehow holding me, even though I felt like I was falling apart. "Emma," I repeated, my voice steadier than I expected. "Who is she?" He swallowed hard, looked away, looked back at me. "Sarah, Don't," I held up my hand. "Don't lie to me, not now." He ran his hand through his hair, a nervous habit I'd seen 1,000 times. "How did you?" He stopped, glanced at the side table, saw the iPad. His face changed. Guilt, panic, resignation. All at once. "I forgot it," he said quietly. "Yeah," I said, "you did." A silence. Heavy, suffocating. "How long?" I asked. He didn't answer right away, just stood there looking at the floor. "Daniel, how long?" 6 months, he whispered. 6 months. Half a year. I felt my knees go weak. I sat back down on the couch before I fell. 6 months, I repeated, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. He moved toward me, hands out like he was approaching something fragile. "Sarah, please let me explain." "Explain?" I looked up at him, and I felt tears burning behind my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Not yet. "Explain what exactly? How you've been sleeping with someone else for 6 months? How you've been lying to me every single day?" "I didn't mean for it to happen," he said, and God, I hated how cliché that sounded. "Nobody ever does," I said bitterly. He sat down across from me, not next to me. He knew better. "She's a colleague," he started. "We got assigned to a project together back in July. We started having lunch, just talking. It was innocent at first, I swear." "At first," I said. He nodded, looking miserable. "Things at home were, I don't know, stale. We barely talked anymore, barely connected. And Emma, she listened. She made me feel like I mattered." I laughed. It came out bitter and sharp. "So this is my fault?" "No," he said quickly. "No, that's not what I'm saying." "Then what are you saying, Daniel?" He looked at me, and for the first time, I saw something real in his eyes, something raw. "I'm saying I felt invisible," he said quietly. "In my own marriage, in my own life. And I know that's not an excuse. I know I should have talked to you, should have tried to fix things. But I didn't. I took the easy way out." The easy way out. That's what I was competing with, ease. "Do you love her?" I asked. The question hung in the air between us. He hesitated. And that hesitation told me everything. "I don't know," he finally said. I stood up. I couldn't sit anymore. Couldn't. "Be still." "You don't know," I repeated. "You've been with her for 6 months, and you don't know if you love her." "It's complicated." "It's really not," I cut him off. "Either you love her or you don't. Either you want to be with me or you don't." "I want to fix this," he said, standing up too. "I want to fix us." "There is no us," I said, and saying it out loud made it real, made it hurt even more. "You destroyed us." "Sarah." "Get out." He blinked. "What?" "Get out," I said again, my voice breaking now. "I can't look at you right now. I can't. I need you to leave. This is my house too." "I don't care." Tears were streaming down my face now, and I didn't bother wiping them away. "Get out, Daniel, please." He stared at me for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "It's okay," he said quietly. "Okay." He grabbed his keys from the table, his jacket from the chair. At the door, he turned back. "I'm sorry," he said. "I really am." I didn't respond. And then he was gone. The door closed behind him, and I was alone. Alone in the house we'd built together. Alone with the shattered pieces of a marriage I thought would last forever. I sank to the floor and finally let myself break. If stories like this speak to you, subscribe to the channel for more real-life emotional journeys. Because sometimes hearing that you're not alone, that's what gets you through. I didn't sleep that night. I just lay in our bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything over and over in my mind. Every conversation, every late night at the office, every time he said he was too tired to talk. It all made sense now. And that made it worse. Around 3 in the morning, I got up, made myself tea I didn't drink, sat at the kitchen table in the dark. I kept thinking about what he said. I felt invisible. Was I really that blind, that neglectful? I thought about our marriage, really thought about it. And the truth was, he wasn't wrong. We had become roommates, going through motions, existing in the same space but not really together. When did that happen? I tried to pinpoint a moment, a turning point, but there wasn't one. It was gradual, slow, like erosion. We stopped having date nights, stopped surprising each other, stopped trying. I couldn't even remember the last time we'd had a real conversation, one that mattered, one that went deeper than logistics and schedules. But that didn't excuse what he did. Feeling invisible didn't give him the right to betray me. If he was unhappy, he should have said something, should have fought for us. Instead, he found someone else. My phone buzzed around 7 in the morning. "Daniel, can we talk?" I stared at the message, deleted it, then typed back. "Not yet." I called in sick to my freelance clients, told them I needed a few days, family emergency. It wasn't a lie. Then I called Jenna. "Hey, you okay?" she answered. "You sound weird." "Can you come over?" I asked. My voice was hoarse from crying. "I'll be there in 20. Jenna showed up with coffee and pastries and one look at my face, and she knew. What happened? I told her everything. She listened without interrupting, and when I finished, she just pulled me into a hug. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. We sat on my couch and she let me cry, didn't try to fix it, didn't offer empty platitudes. She just sat with me. "What are you going to do?" she finally asked. "I don't know," I said honestly. Part of me wants to burn everything down, destroy his life the way he destroyed mine. And the other part. I was quiet for a long time. The other part still loves him, I admitted, and I hate myself for it. Jenna squeezed my hand. "That doesn't make you weak," she said. "That makes you human." Over the next few days, Daniel texted me constantly, apologizing, begging to talk, saying he'd ended things with Emma. I didn't respond. I needed space, clarity. I spent those days thinking, really thinking about what I wanted. Did I want to save this marriage? Could I even forgive him? And more importantly, did I want to? Because forgiveness wasn't the same as reconciliation. I could forgive him and still walk away. On the 4th day, I finally agreed to meet him. A coffee shop, neutral ground. He was already there when I arrived. Looked like he hadn't slept either. "Thank you for coming," he said as I sat down. I nodded, didn't trust my voice yet. I ended it, he said immediately. With Emma, it's over completely. Okay, I said. I want to fix this, Sarah. I want to fix us. I'll do anything, therapy, counseling, whatever it takes. I looked at him, this man I'd built a life with. Do you love her? I asked again. He met my eyes this time. No, he said. I thought I might, but I don't. It was just an escape from the numbness, from feeling like I didn't matter. And now I realize I almost lost the only person who ever really did make me feel like. I mattered, he said. You, Sarah, it's always been you. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to. But trust, once broken, doesn't just magically repair itself. I don't know if I can do this, I said quietly. I don't know if I can look at you every day and not see her. I understand, he said, but I'm asking you to try, please. And here's the thing, nobody tells you about betrayal. It's not black and white. It's messy, complicated. Because even though he hurt me, I still remembered the good parts. The man I fell in love with, the life we'd built. Was it worth fighting for? Or was it already too broken to save? I didn't give him an answer that day. I told him I needed more time, more space. He nodded, said he'd wait as long as I needed. And he did. For 3 weeks, we lived separately. He stayed with a friend. I stayed in our house. Our house. It felt so empty without him. But it also felt peaceful in a strange way. Like I could finally breathe. I spent those weeks rediscovering myself, the version of me that existed outside of being Daniel's wife. I reconnected with old friends, picked up hobbies I'd abandoned, started journaling. And I realized something. I'd lost myself too. Not because of Daniel, but because I'd let myself disappear into the routine, into the comfort of being half of a whole. I'd stopped trying too. That didn't excuse what he did. Nothing could. But it gave me perspective. We'd both failed this marriage, in different ways. Him by betraying my trust. Me by letting us become strangers. After 3 weeks, I asked him to come over. We sat in our living room, the same room where everything had fallen apart. I've been thinking, I started, a lot. He waited, patient. I don't know if I can forgive you, I said honestly. Not yet, maybe not ever. I saw the hope drain from his face. But I continued, I'm willing to try. His eyes widened. We need therapy, I said. Real therapy, both of us, together and separately. Yes, he said quickly, absolutely. And I need complete transparency. Passwords, schedules, everything. Done. This isn't going to be easy, I warned him. There are going to be days I hate you, days I can't stand to be in the same room as you. As I know. And if I ever find out you lied to me again, even once, I'm gone. No second chances. I understand. I looked at him, really looked at him. Why should I believe you? I asked. Why should I trust that you won't do this again? He was quiet for a moment. Then he said something I didn't expect. You shouldn't, he said. Not yet. Trust has to be earned, and I know I destroyed it, but I'm asking for the chance to earn it back, however long that takes. There was something different in his eyes, something genuine. Maybe it was desperation. Maybe it was regret. Or maybe it was the wake-up call we both needed. We started therapy the following week. It was brutal. sitting in that room, unpacking years of neglect and resentment and hurt. There were sessions where I cried, sessions where he cried, sessions where we both just sat in angry silence. Our therapist didn't sugarcoat anything. She made us confront the ugly truth. Our marriage had been dying long before Emma came into the picture. And if we wanted to save it, we had to build something entirely new. Not go back to what we were, but create something better. Months passed. Slowly, painfully, we started to rebuild. He showed me his phone without me asking, told me where he was going, came home when he said he would. And I worked on opening up again, letting him in, trusting him with my feelings. It wasn't perfect. We still fought, still had bad days. But we also had good ones. Moments where we laughed again, talked about real things, dreamed about the future. One night, about 6 months after everything happened, we were sitting in our backyard. The same backyard that had stayed empty for years. "I think we should build that deck," Daniel said suddenly. I looked at him. Yeah, he said. "We've been talking about it for forever. Let's actually do it." I smiled, a real smile. "Okay," I said, "let's do it." And we did. We spent the next few weekends building it together, arguing about measurements, laughing when things went wrong, creating something new. Together. I won't lie and say everything is perfect now. It's not. Some days I still think about what he did, still feel that sharp pain in my chest. But I also see how hard he's trying, how much he's changed, how much we've both changed. Did I make the right choice by staying? I don't know. Ask me again in 5 years, 10 years. All I know is that right now, in this moment, I'm choosing to fight for us. Not because I'm weak, but because I'm strong enough to believe we can be better. And maybe that's all any of us can do. I choose to fight. I choose to hope. Choose to believe that even broken things can be made beautiful again. If this story touched something inside you, like the video, share it with someone who might need to hear it and leave a comment below. I read every single one because we're all just trying to figure this out together. They say time heals all wounds. I'm not sure I believe that anymore. Time doesn't heal. It just teaches you how to carry the weight differently. A year after I found those messages, Daniel and I were still together. Still married. Still trying. But something fundamental had shifted, something I couldn't quite name. I trusted him more now, or maybe I just trusted myself more. I'd learned to listen to my instincts, to speak up when something felt off, to not let comfort turn into complacency. And Daniel, he'd changed too. He was more present, more intentional. He'd leave little notes around the house, send texts in the middle of the day just to say he was thinking of me. At first, I wondered if it was guilt, overcompensation. But as time went on, I realized it was something else. He was trying to be the husband he should have been all along. We celebrated our 12th anniversary that October. Nothing fancy, just dinner at the restaurant where we had our first date. Sitting across from him, watching him laugh at something the waiter said, I felt grateful. Not grateful for what happened. I wouldn't wish that pain on anyone. But grateful that we'd survived it. That we'd chosen each other, even when it would have been easier to walk away. "What are you thinking about?" Daniel asked, noticing me watching him. "Just us," I said, "how far we've come." He reached across the table and took my hand. I know I say this a lot, he said quietly, but I really am sorry for everything I put you through. I know, I said. And I meant it. I did know. But here's what I'd learned through all of this. Sorry doesn't erase the past. It doesn't undo the damage. But it can be a foundation to build something new on. If both people are willing to do the work. And we were. We'd built that deck in the backyard, added string lights, created a space where we could sit together on summer evenings and just be. We'd started having date nights again, once a week, no matter what. Sometimes we went out. Sometimes we just cooked dinner together and talked. Really talked. About our fears, our dreams, the things we'd buried for too long. It wasn't always easy. There were still moments when I'd see a notification on his phone and feel that familiar spike of anxiety. Moments when old wounds would resurface, sharp and fresh. But I'd learned to sit with those feelings, to talk about them instead of letting them fester. And Daniel had learned to be patient with my process, to understand that healing wasn't linear. That trust, once broken, takes time to rebuild. One afternoon, I was working at my desk when I got an unexpected message from an unknown number. Hi, Sarah, this is Emma. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I needed to say something. My heart started racing. I hadn't thought about her in months, had actively tried not to. And now here she was, back in my life through a text message. I stared at the screen, debating whether to delete it. But curiosity won. I want to apologize, the message continued. For my part in what happened, I knew Daniel was married. I knew what we were doing was wrong, but I convinced myself it was different, that we were different. I was wrong, and I'm sorry for the pain I caused you. I sat there for a long time, processing. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to leave it unread and move on. But another part, a bigger part, felt something shift. I typed back. Thank you for saying that. I'm not going to pretend it's okay. It's not, but I appreciate the apology. I hit send before I could overthink it. She responded almost immediately. I understand. For what it's worth, I ended things not long after Daniel told me he wanted to fix his marriage. I realized I was running from my own issues instead of dealing with them. I've been in therapy since, working on myself. I read her message twice, and I realized something unexpected. I didn't hate her. I'd spent so long directing all my anger at Daniel, I'd never really processed how I felt about her. But sitting there, reading her words, I just felt sad. Sad for all of us. For the ways we hurt each other and ourselves. I hope you find what you're looking for, I typed back. And I meant it. Because holding onto anger wasn't serving me anymore. It was just taking up space where healing could be. I didn't tell Daniel about the messages right away. Not because I was hiding them, but because I needed time to process how I felt about it first. When I did tell him, a few days later, he looked stricken. She reached out to you, he asked. I'm so sorry, I can ask her too. It's fine, I said. Actually, it helped in a way. RD way. How? I thought about it. It made her real, I said finally. For so long, she was just this idea, this faceless person who destroyed our marriage, but she's just human, flawed, making mistakes like all of us. Daniel was quiet. Does that mean you forgive her? He asked carefully. I don't know, I said honestly, but I'm letting go of the anger. That's different. He nodded slowly. I'm letting go too, he said, of who I used to be, the version of me that thought running away was easier than facing problems. Are you happy, I asked suddenly, right now in this marriage with me? He didn't hesitate. Yes, he said, more than I've been in years, because we're actually building something real now, not just going through the motions. I believed him. And that was new. That night, lying in bed, I thought about forgiveness. Real forgiveness, not the kind you say because you're supposed to, but the kind that actually sets you free. I'd forgiven Daniel. Not because what he did was okay, it wasn't, but because carrying that weight was exhausting. And I wanted to be free. Free to love him without resentment. Free to love myself without shame. Free to move forward instead of staying stuck in the past. I turned to him in the darkness. I forgive you, I whispered. He was quiet for a moment, then I felt his hand find mine. Thank you, he said, his voice thick with emotion. And in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Not because everything was perfect, but because I'd chosen healing over bitterness, love over anger, hope over despair. And that choice, that was mine. Nobody could take that away from me. 2 years after everything happened, I woke up on a Saturday morning and realized something. I was happy, not in spite of what we'd been through, but maybe, in some strange way, because of it. The pain had cracked us open, forced us to look at ourselves and each other with brutal honesty. And in that space, we'd grown, individually and together. Daniel was in the kitchen making coffee. I could hear him humming, some old song from when we first started dating. I walked in and he looked up, smiled. Morning, beautiful. Morning, I said, kissing him on the cheek. It felt natural, easy, not forced or performative. Just us. We'd come a long way from that Tuesday afternoon when my world fell apart. Sometimes I wondered who I'd be if it had never happened. If I'd still be going through the motions, sleepwalking through a marriage that looked fine on the surface but was hollow underneath. Or if we would have woken up eventually anyway. I'd never know. And I'd made peace with that. What I did know was this: betrayal doesn't have to be the end of the story. It can be a beginning. A painful, messy, complicated beginning. But a beginning nonetheless. We'd started talking about the future again, real plans. Maybe selling the house, moving somewhere new, starting fresh. Or maybe staying and building more memories here. We didn't have all the answers. But for the first time in years, we were asking the questions together. That weekend, we drove out to the coast, just a day trip, no agenda. We walked along the beach, hand in hand, and I thought about all the versions of us that had existed over the years. The young couple, full of hope and dreams. The comfortable couple, lost in routine. The broken couple, shattered by betrayal. And now, this couple, scarred but stronger. Honest, intentional, present. Do you ever regret it? Daniel asked suddenly, staying. I looked at him. Do you want me to be honest? Always. Sometimes, I said, in the really hard moments, when the pain comes back, I wonder if it would have been easier to just leave. He nodded, not defensive, just listening. But then I remember, I continued, that easy isn't the same as right. and walking away would have been giving up on something worth fighting for. "You really believe that?" he asked. "That we were worth it?" "I do," I said, "not because of who we were, but because of who we're becoming." He pulled me close and we stood there, waves crashing at our feet. "I don't deserve you," he said quietly. "You're right," I said, but I was smiling. "You don't, but you're stuck with me anyway." He laughed, a real deep laugh. And I realized I couldn't remember the last time I'd heard him laugh like that. Maybe I never had. Maybe this version of us was the most authentic one yet. That evening, sitting on our deck with the string lights glowing overhead, I made a decision. I'd been holding onto this story, carrying it around like a heavy secret, but it wasn't serving me anymore. "I think I want to write about what happened," I said to Daniel. He looked surprised. "Really?" "Yeah," I said, "not for revenge or to air dirty laundry, but because I think our story might help someone." "How?" I thought about it. Because we're not the only couple who's been through this, and most of the stories you hear end with divorce, with bitterness, with the idea that betrayal is unforgivable. And you want to show them a different ending. "Not an ending," I said, "a different path, one where both people choose to fight instead of flee." He was quiet for a moment. "Will you use our real names?" "No," I said, "this isn't about shame, it's about hope." He reached for my hand. "Then I think you should write it," he said. "If it helps even one person, it'll be worth it." So I did. I wrote our story, all of it. The good, the bad, the ugly. The betrayal and the healing. The anger and the forgiveness. And I realized something as I wrote. This story wasn't just about Daniel's affair. It was about two people who'd lost themselves and each other, and then chose to find their way back. Not perfectly, not easily, but together. I thought about the woman I was 2 years ago, standing in that kitchen, holding Daniel's iPad, watching her world crumble. She was terrified, broken, convinced her life was over. I wished I could go back and tell her what I know now. That she was stronger than she realized. That pain doesn't last forever. That sometimes the worst thing that happens to you can also be the thing that saves you. Because if Daniel hadn't cheated, we'd probably still be going through the motions. Still pretending everything was fine. Still slowly dying inside a marriage that had stopped breathing years ago. His betrayal forced us to face the truth. And the truth, as painful as it was, set us free. Free to rebuild. Free to choose each other consciously, not just out of habit. Free to create a marriage worth having. I don't know what the future holds. Maybe we'll make it another 50 years. Maybe we won't. But I do know this. Right now, in this moment, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Not because the path here was easy, but because I chose it. Every painful step of the way. And that choice, that's mine to own. Forever.